Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Jim Jordan completely corrects the record on Dana Bash's own show because she doesn't have any of the facts straight. Let's dive in.
Given the fact that the president has been so public about his desire for the prosecution of these people who he says are his political enemies, how is that just following the law inside the Justice Department? Isn't this the political weaponization that you talk about?
No, you got to go to the facts of the case. The president has the prerogative to say what he wants, and he will do that. No one's ever doubted that the president will say what's on his mind and frankly do what he told the American voters he was going to do. So that's one thing. But this is about applying the facts to the law, and that's exactly what's taking place in this Justice Department. You cannot argue with the fact Jim Comey said one thing to under oath in front of the United States Congress. That's what he's being charged for: false statements to the Congress, 18 U.S.C. 1001. You cannot argue that he did that, particularly when you know the facts from the Inspector General with this individual Daniel Richmond, who Comey specifically hired to launder information to folks like you in the press.
Do you believe that the Justice Department is acting independently from the president?
I think the Justice Department is applying the facts to the case.
But are they doing it under pressure from the president? Are they trying to find ways to indict people who the president said publicly in that post he wants to be prosecuted?
I think that, Dan, I think they're doing their job. I think they are doing their job. I mean, I know the kind of information they're giving to Congress, information we did not get under the previous FBI director or from the previous attorney general. Information we had looked at this issue. The FBI and the Richmond field office did this memorandum on Catholics, saying if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're somehow an extremist. We got like a handful of documents from Chris Wray, even though we asked for everything.
Should they be doing their job under pressure from the president?
They are doing their job.
So you're saying you're comfortable with that?
They are doing their job.
But you're comfortable with them doing this?
Applying the facts to the law. I'm looking at each individual case, enforcing the law and applying the facts to that. And that's what I think is going on.
I'll add one more application
in the three examples that you raised.
Forgive me. I'll ask one more application to that. Applying the facts, applying the law, fine. How about applying pressure from the White House? You're comfortable with that, given the fact that you were very upset about what you called weaponization so much that you have a whole new subcommittee on it?
The president is speaking his mind, and I think that's entirely appropriate. What I know this Justice Department is doing is the good work that they're supposed to do, looking at the law, looking at the facts, looking at each individual case, and moving forward, I think, in an appropriate fashion.
Let's talk about these cases.
You can't argue with, Jim Comey, by the way, Jim Comey is where it all, so you talk about weaponization, that's where it all started. 9 years ago, Jim Comey's the guy who took the dossier paid for by the other party's campaign,
but that's not what he's being prosecuted for.
Used that. I understand that, but I'm just saying this is, you want to talk about weaponization? It's Jim Comey's where it started. That is totally where it started. He took the dossier, went to the secret court to get a warrant to spy on the other party's campaign.
So this is retribution,
and then they changed the intelligence community assessment after the first.
So you're saying this is retribution against him?
Looking at the facts, looking at the law. No, I'm just saying Jim Comey, this is, you mentioned weaponization. I'm saying that's where it all started. Well, what I'm saying is happening here is they're looking at the facts and they're applying the law to each individual case.
Let me ask about those cases. Are you worried, as an attorney and somebody who understands how these cases work, that what the president's comments are doing is actually undermining the cases when they actually come before a judge and jury?
I mean, we'll see how that all shakes. No, I'm not worried about that. Again, they're going to prosecute the case. Mr. Comey's presumed innocent. That's one of the great things about our system. And they will present the evidence in the court. And we'll see what happens as they move forward. But I am comfortable with them moving forward. I am comfortable with the indictment because I think when you look at the facts.
And you're comfortable with the president's role as well?
This is warranted.
Just to button that, you're comfortable with the president's role?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with this president. I mean, you talk about we're celebrating today what's happening in the Middle East, what he's done for these families.
Of course, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in this issue.
I'm so comfortable with the president. I'm comfortable with the president and how he's handled his entire responsibilities with this issue, with foreign policy, with the border, with tax policy, you name it.
Every single time they have gone after President Donald Trump, they have either failed or revealed their own ineptitude. And to make matters worse, reminder, James Comey committed something worse than Watergate. I repeat, Watergate got a president out of office. They were going to impeach him if he didn't leave. Even though Richard Nixon, let's be honest here, Richard Nixon and going after Democrats and going after communists, in my opinion, at this point in history, has done very little wrong. Granted, he did expand the role of government, but at that point in time, he was so terrified of the mainstream media, which lied about him, marred him, dragged his name through the mud. And now, 50 years later, Republicans are so tired of mainstream media nonsense. That's why the Make America Great Again movement is working. All right? That's why I wear this shirt. Defund the media. We've defunded PBS, which, by the way, children's programming is just that. Programming children. All right? There's a double entendre with those words, and it's on purpose. The reason I'm getting off into the weeds and into the history about this is because we've seen an entire media apparatus at one time go after a president. They went after Richard Nixon with everything they could throw at him, not once, but twice. They did it in the early 60s in order to get him out off the ballot because they were so terrified. Richard Nixon was that good at governing. And the media basically got the American people poisoned, and America rejected him because that was the first flex of the mainstream media. No more. We are rejecting the nonsense. That's why Dana Bash is up there blinking as much as she possibly can. I am trying to formulate words against the president of the United States. Is he doing retribution? No. He is going after people who have broken the law. We have had an epidemic of people breaking laws in order to go after a president that they view as a demagogue. Whereas the rest of the American people go, no, he's a breath of fresh air. This is William Jennings Bryan trying to break the stupid system all over again. There have been populist movements throughout American history. All right, Andrew Jackson was the first of them. He succeeded. Granted, he did some ugly things along the way. So far, we have not seen the ugliness. We have not seen a trail of tears. We have not seen a sitting Supreme Court hold down a ruling saying, no, you can't do this. And the president says, screw you, enforce it. All right, that's quite literally what Andrew Jackson said to the Supreme Court. Now let them enforce it. Do you not understand the implications of that? That was a sitting president that refused to do his duty to the Constitution. Nearly every single time Democrats get too much power, they go crazy. That's what happened under the Biden years. The early Obama years, remember the healthcare war? Remember the Tea Party that came out of Democrats being too crazy for only 2 years? Whenever the Democrats get a majority in the Senate, they go nuts. And Dana Bash right here is trying her best to run point on the very idea that, hey, wait a minute, why are you noticing that my side is doing really stupid, illegal stuff? And she is trying to clutch her pearls and run point for the people who have broken laws in order to refuse the American people. Because they think for some reason that their apparatus, that the Democrat Party talking points, that the Democrat Party ideals, that the bureaucracy that they enshrine is indeed the good timeline. No, it's not. It's not working anymore. And I'll end with this. I had the great pleasure about a month ago of meeting with the former president of Poland, Lech Walesa. And I'm still sure I'm not pronouncing the name right, because I hadn't heard of him until about 4 months ago. I'm too young to know who this guy is, even though I studied politics and history for a living. That tells you that I'm almost out of my depth when I met him. And what I realized is during his speech, I realized that, oh no, this man's too European to understand America. He's too European because he believes that the European model works. What he failed to understand the whole time is that the European model, the European Union, is predicated on the United States. Our literal function, where we don't have Georgia constantly competing against Tennessee. The only time we do that is when UGA goes up to Tennessee and spanks them in their own stadium. And I'm not an UGA fan. I'm a Georgia Tech fan. The bureaucracy and the system that America has not been working properly. And that's the problem. The Democrats are defending what is defunct and failing, and the Republicans and particularly the MAGA movement is saying, let's reform this before things get out of control. And Dana Bash is running point for the people who have allowed the corruption and failure over and over and over again. And Jim Jordan, he can't go out there and go scorched earth on her because he has to keep showing up. He has to keep talking about these points. But I'm not shackled by that thing. I get to tell you what's really going on. And Dana Bash is running point for the very people who have kept on making everything worse. Because rich white liberals do not understand what's going on outside of their gated communities. I am a broken record on that topic, but that is the problem. And Jim Jordan is doing his best to walk the line and ensure that he's telling the truth while not getting too off in the weeds. That's why I'm very thankful for YouTube. But let me know if I'm being obtuse. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one.